You do not have anything.
I do.
Oh, you do.
What do or not?
Well, I've got something I want.
You open up the show.
Oh, okay.
Open up the show.
And then you'll...
and then I'll figure out where I am.
Okay. All right, Simon, we're going to take you off air for a little bit. We'll see you in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Bye-bye. There he goes. See, Mike, you didn't scare him away this time.
Right.
Let me turn this off. There we go. So much quieter. I got to get the... I'm going to put in a new AC back over here, by the way.
Okay.
Not that you care, but...
I don't care.
But that little unit there is just way too noisy. So I've got an opening in the wall behind me here, and I'm going to stick a little AC unit in there. Oh. You comfortable?
I am.
Okay. Here we go.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the award-winning #1 podcast to create center horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, joining us again here in the studio, we have Simon Cocozza, an FFE trainer and also an equine biomechanics specialist. If you remember, he was back on episode 11, season 11, episode 2, and he's joining us again this week to talk about exercises every rider can do to strengthen a horse's back. All this and much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, and over my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Travis, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing okay. I'm doing all right, actually. I'm doing very well.
Good.
I'm very happy. My wife had a show down in Aiken, Aiken, South Carolina.
I knew they went.
She said, and I think in her class, she had nine trainers.
Right.
And I think by the time it got to her level, or they went through, I think 2 of them scratched, which I guess they didn't qualify. I don't know how that works. How does that work?
They may have had a problem. They wanted to pull the horse because of lack of something. Class, lack of something.
So, anyway, so they ended up with 7 horses, and my wife being one of them. And she said that, and here's another background on her. She has moved up 2 levels. She's working at a different level. I think it's 2 levels. A different level.
She's gone to the next level.
She's gone to the next level, if not that one, the one above that one. And it's a harder test. I mean, it's almost the same exact test.
It's being scored harder.
But it's being scored a lot harder.
Right.
And so out of the 7 riders, and this is the first one of the first show that she's done of the new year. And with all her new training and learning all the new stuff and all the other, the lead changes and everything, she came in 3rd. And I say to her, awesome. I would have been upset if you were last, but someone's got to come in last. But she actually came in 3rd, and she's like, I said, so how do you feel emotionally about it? With your connection with Diego and all the everything that you've been trying and training on. She said, you know what? He did awesome. She's like, and she's her own worst critic. She's like, I could have done a little bit better, but the 2 of us together worked very, very well. She's like, I'm so happy with 3rd place. She's like, I'm ecstatic. It's the first show. And she said, if you remember the first show last year, I did come in last place. She's like, this is the first show of a new level. I came in 3rd place. She was happy.
Right.
Now, then tragedy struck.
It did?
Yes.
No.
Yes. So what happened was, as they were leaving Aiken, South Carolina, and I think it's about a 3-hour ride from here. Now, we broadcast just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, a little town called Marshville. We broadcast every Monday morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so on her way back, what they like to do, and I give them all the credit in the world for this, that as soon as the last horse is done with the riding, they clean the horse, like 4 o'clock or whatever.
Sure.
They clean the horse, do all the stuff.
All the grooming, all the going over, yes.
And they load up, and then they hit the road.
Right.
Now, I know it's only a 3-hour drive, so they're coming back home. They left the arena down there probably around 5 o'clock. So she always texts me, hey, we're on the road.
Right.
2.5 hours into the ride home, she's riding with Brett, her trainer.
Brett,
and he's got a big old fat Dodge Dually out there. And he's got a 4-horse trailer with that little apartment on the front of it.
Right.
And they're pulling.
He forgot to hook the trailer up and left it naked and had to go back and get it.
No, that would be horribly wrong.
No.
But what happened was one of the tires blew on the way back home.
Right.
And I said, and I'm thinking in my mind, like the movie clips and stuff, when a tire blows a trailer and the trailer flips over and over and over and over and over and over, and horses are flying, or God forbid anything like that happens. She said, they heard the noise. Brett goes, oh darn it, blew a tire, pulled over, jacked up, changed the tire. Now my wife, you have to know my wife, she will go automatically to 10 as far as panic mode.
Right.
When something like this happens, especially with her horse. She said, hey, Brett blew a tire. We're fixing it now. We're on the side of the road. I'm like, do I need to do it? How far away are you? Do you need me to help? Do you need my assistance? Do you need my help? She's like, no. We're about 45 minutes out of town. She's like, Brett's got another tire on there, and he's going to put it on there. And so I go, okay. Within 25 minutes, they were back up on the road, and so that just pushed them back. She didn't get home till probably about 10:30 that night. The next morning, I said, so, I'm half asleep when she gets home. Next morning, I said, so tell me about what happened. She's like, you would be so proud of me, Travis. I said, why? She's like, I thought about it. I even told Brett about this when we were riding back after we fixed tire. I did not panic one bit. Not one iota of a panic.
Maybe she's only panicking when you've got to deal with it.
Well, I said that. Thanks, Mike, because
I'm just pointing out the obvious.
That's exactly what I said to her. I go, it's because I wasn't there. She goes, you know what? It's because you weren't there that I was not panicking. I go, well, that gives me a whole lot of confidence in myself. But I do 10 because I'm not a horse person, and I think that's what she meant, because I was not there. There's a reason why I'm not allowed to go to shows, because she's like, I got one child to deal with. I don't have to worry about 2 children while I'm out there. So
you are very immature for your age.
But thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Just trying to help. Just try to help.
But it's changing a tire. Now, I've changed million times. I've had 36-foot boats where triple axles, and I've blown tires on them, and you pop out and pop it up and pop it on and head down the road.
On the road, yeah.
But a 36-foot boat is nowhere matched compared to her horse and the other 3 horses that were on that trailer as far as valuability.
Right.
That's my,
yes. That could be a little different.
That was a little pregnant pause there for you if you weren't paying attention. All right, guys, we got a lot to talk about, lots to get into. Big show, and joining us here in the studio is Simon Cocozza. So if you're not over on YouTube, join us over there right now. For every podcast, we do have a matching video. You can see the whole length video over on the YouTube channel. Search Equine Dynamics over on YouTube with Mike Stine. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I have to flip your camera around if you're going to do that.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's why I stopped and looked at it. I was like, oh, camera's on mirror. So.
Well, if they read backwards, it's okay.
They have to put it in a mirror to read it backwards. Well, I got to flip Mike's camera around just in case he holds that book up again. There you go. Now hold it up and see if it shows. There it goes. See, now you can read it. Now you can read it. Simon, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Travis. How are you?
I hope it didn't bore you with that story too much.
It's one I've heard many times before.
When I was working out of a trailer rig, I always carried at least 2 spares.
Well,
it never failed. I'd blow one tire, then the other one on the other side would end up blowing.
Well, I kid you not. I'm from Orlando, Florida, which is right in the middle of Central Florida, and we went on vacation up in the Panhandle, and that's a good 5-hour drive to get up into the Panhandle because you got to go up and over.
Right.
And we did. We had a spot on the beach, and I had a big 30-foot bow rider, and I had and I must have blown 3 tires that trip. So we had to go to Walmart. You can't just drop them off somewhere and have them retired. You got to buy a whole new tire with rim and everything.
Right.
So anyway, it was not a fun trip. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you can join the podcast. You can be part of the podcast. The way you do that is go to equinedynamics.com. At the very top of the page, it says join the podcast. You hit that little button, opens up another page for you. There's a little orange bar at the very top that says leave a message for Mike Stine. Your voice physically can be here in the studio alongside of us asking your questions. So if you have a question for Mike Stine or a question for any of our guests here, you can get those in and we'll have them answered here on the air. And you can be anonymous if you want. There's a little spot for your name. You can put anonymous in there. It does want an email address. It's not an
I know a lot of people named anonymous.
Yeah, they always show up on your phone call asking for money. And you can leave a voice message, comes right to your inbox, and we'll answer it on the very next podcast. Now, joining us here in the studio this week, and over to my far hand side, my very own anonymous, is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And joining us this week, again, is Simon Cocozza, an FFE trainer and an equine biomechanics specialist. How are you, Simon? And thanks again for joining us.
Well, thank you, Travis, and thank you, Mike, for having me.
Now,
yes, glad to.
We're going to go ahead and get this out of the way. Where are you joining us from? Because you're on the video call here. Where are you at right now?
I'm in Wiltshire, in England.
And the weather's nice from what I'm understanding.
Unbelievable. We've just had a rather long winter. I think it's probably similar to yours in North Carolina. But the sun's shining and everyone's saddling up their horses. The good times are ahead.
Yes.
So, speaking of saddling up the horses, and like I said, my wife is starting the new first show, the training season or the championship season or whatever you want to call it. Show season is starting. Now, there's some things. You've written a book. And, Mike, if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you want to hold that book up there, Mike?
Yes.
And it's called Core Conditioning for Horses, Yoga-Inspired Warm-Up Techniques. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about what's inside this book. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you, Vanna.
You want the back one?
No, that's fine. Okay. The print's too
Just
small.
making sure.
So we're going to talk about what's in your book and what people, as the spring's coming out and the weather's getting better, and they're going to want out there and maybe take a little bit more notice on their horses and give them a little bit more of a warm-up. So tell us what we're looking for when we're getting into the show season. And, people think you can just get on the horse and kind of, walk it around the arena a little bit to get it warmed up. What do you... in your book, you talk about there's different techniques just to warm up your horse that has, outside of the normal just getting on the horse and walking around the track.
Okay, it's a good question. A standard warm-up that I've used for decades and most people I work with use is having a little bit of a walk, trot, and a canter on both reins. Now, when it comes to making sure that the horse is adequately prepared for the sort of things that we ask them to do, jumping over things, dancing on the spot, that sort of thing. Having a walk, trot, and canter is simply not adequate to prepare the horse's body for what we're going to ask. So it became very clear to me at some point, or gradually as I was training lots and lots of horses for competition, that we need to do something similar to what we do with the human body to prepare it for sport, which is make sure every single body part is supple, loose, and on a daily basis getting stronger. And then what we eventually ask the horse to learn to do, it can do for a very long time and do very well. And if we don't do it, the horse tends to meet an upper limit and not be able to get past it.
See, in my observation, my wife trains, and I say trains, she has lessons 3 times a week. They're about an hour long, 45 minutes to an hour long. She can tell, all right, the horse did well today. The horse did well today. And then she goes to, like I said, this show in Aiken, South Carolina. Isn't the lessoning and the training enough warm up when you bring them? I understand, like a baseball pitcher or something like that. He just doesn't come from his hotel room and walk up on the mound and start throwing the ball. But you've got spring training where you get everything conditioned, you get everything all in shape and lubed up and ready to go. Is it how long of a warm up do you need to do prior to like any kind of are you saying doing it before every kind of lesson or every kind of show, or are there 2 separate warm ups that you would do for those activities?
Sometimes the situation doesn't allow you to do a full warm up. But I think it's very important to compartmentalize it as in your daily warm-up in training, where you're working on your horse's weak areas, and a warm-up before a show, where you haven't really got the facility in a collecting room to do that sort of thing, but you nevertheless want to have your horse as agile and as receptive and capable as possible for what you're going to ask. So they are different, but nevertheless, they're sort of very similar anyway.
So what are some of the simple warm-ups that you do? Because for me, I'm thinking warm-ups. I'm thinking, I'll make the horse run, 10 10 yards and then stop, and 10 yards and then stop. Just get the heart pumping. Because I remember playing, any kind of, I played basketball in college and stuff, and that's what they make you do. They make you run the lines for a while, and then they go, okay, now let's start. Now that everyone's heart's pumping, let's start shooting around and stuff. So what kind of warm-ups are we talking about? The ones that you would do before lessoning and the ones you would do prior to a show, and time frame of how long those warm-ups should be.
Well, on your daily training, you probably want to do a 20 to 30-minute warm-up, depending on the level of the horse. And that should really contain range of motion exercises. And obviously, the preparatory getting the oil up to temperature. But you also want to be focusing on what your horse finds difficult in a suppleness and coordination point of view, and working on that. I mean, it's really, in some senses, with a horse, the chain is only as strong as the weakest link. And if you have one part of the body that is holding the rest of it back, that's the area that needs a lot of focus. So that would be something that you do daily. If you're in the show ring, you probably want to give your horse the maximum chance of delivering the requirements of the effort, whether it be a show jumping round or a dressage test, in which case you want to be sharpening up the components of that challenge specifically.
Mike, you were going to say something?
Right. And when you're talking about warm-ups, say you're bringing the horse in for the riding lesson, you would like that 30, 40 minutes done before the lesson actually starts.
Yeah, it would be ideal. Although, having said that, I think that the warm-up is part of the lesson.
Right.
Because, if your horse is a little bit stiff on one side or doesn't cross laterally with fluidity or doesn't have available energy to perform the tasks that you need in the lesson itself isn't going to go well.
No.
So a structured warm-up where you're progressively on a daily and weekly and monthly basis working on the things that your horse can't do, that you need them to do, really is the lesson. Because the lesson itself, I mean, for example, in a lesson, if you're trying to teach a horse a particular movement, but the horse hasn't got the suppleness to give you that movement, the education of trying to teach the horse that movement is lost.
Right.
It will go nowhere. So I think that a warm-up and the lesson proper, the bulk of the lesson after the warm-up, are intertwined.
Yes, I'd say that for sure. From my end of it, there's a lot of horses trying to be pushed past their fitness level as far as what they're asking to be done as far as performance. And then on my end, we're dealing with, we got to keep them patched together as best we can.
Yeah, I think it was one of the subjects that came up at the British Dressage Training Forum last week, which was that we've come to a conservative estimate that about 80% of horses are pushed out of balance. They're pushed so far forward that their balance can no longer be sustained under that level of impulsion. And of course, as we know, biodynamics, biomechanics, if the feet are at just the wrong angle, it's going to increase the likelihood of the horse losing balance on a step-by-step basis.
And on the other end, the more out of balance they are, the harder it is for me to keep the mechanics on the foot together, because you're fighting chicken or egg thing, right?
Absolutely. It's a multi-component issue. I suggest buying a motorcycle. I think I suggested that last time.
Right. I think, and I still haven't done it yet, so I'm still working on it. All right, guys, we're gonna take a quick little break, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk with Simon about what the actual warm up will tell us about your horse. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Awesome, Simon.
Thank you. You too.
He's just buttering me up.
Yes, I can tell.
No,
he's working.
Seriously, I do this a lot, and you two are by far the most professional.
Oh, thank you very much.
He's saying that because he's talking to us.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you're not over on YouTube, shame on you. You should go over there right now and join Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine over on YouTube. You can see the full-length podcast, full-length video. For every podcast we do, we have matching video over on YouTube. Make sure you give them a subscribe over there as well, because we have a lot of visual elements that happen during the show here. And one of the visual elements we have joining us this week is Simon Cocozza. But over my far end side is Mike Stine. How are you? You can see a smiling.
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you? And how are you, Simon?
You can see a smiling face over there.
Thanks. Hi, Travis.
And thank you very much for joining us this week, Simon. So we were talking about warm-ups, and you were saying that the warm-ups in your lesson plan is actually part of the lesson plan. You kind of, like you said, trying to get the oil up to temperature. You're warming the horse up. You're warming the horse up. Now, when you're having a training, if you're going into an actual show, the part, you don't have a whole lot of time to sit there. You might not have an arena. You might not have the space and ability to warm up your horse prior to the show. Now, I know they do allow, there are some arenas that aren't open during the show and everything like that, but sometimes you might be in a parking lot or a sand lot or something like that. So as far as warm-ups prior to the show, you said about 10, 20 minutes or 20 to 30 minutes prior to a show, because I'd be afraid that the horse would get tired like halfway through his routine.
No, I think that 20 to 30 minutes on a daily basis is part of the training.
Okay.
Sometimes when you're preparing for a show ring, there are no rules. Sometimes you get 5 minutes. Sometimes you're in there for an hour. I think part of it really is, okay, so the Germans have a principle is if you can't win, don't go. Okay, so that's probably good advice.
Right.
So the time to go to a show is when your horse is performing really well and it's really easy at home, because there's so many other things that are going wrong. You're in a different environment, transport issues, flat tires, as you mentioned earlier. And if the stress level is high for both of you. So you really want to be competing at a level that is underneath the level that you're working at home.
And see, that's the thing. That's why my wife got third place. She is working at home on, let's say, level 3. I don't know what the level is. Let's just say level 3. And she is riding in or doing the show in level 3. As to last year, she was training at level 3, but doing level 1 shows. So now she's, kind of bumped up to where she's actually, what she's training for, what she's actually riding in.
And
go ahead, Mike.
When you start adding the extra pressure, the shows what can go wrong will go wrong.
I think, there's a law there somewhere. Now, Simon, you were going to tell us as far as once we get the horse all warmed up, what are we looking for the horse? What is the warm-up telling us about our horse?
Well, if it's your daily warm-up, so you're training your horse daily or, 3, 4, 5 times a week, what you're looking for is certainly in the beginning, and I think that the beginning of a warm-up is extremely, really important. There's a lot of information there. How does your horse feel? Is your horse moving freely? Are they enthusiastic? Are they stressed? Do they feel strong? Do they feel supple? Do you have access to the horse's body and mind? These are all really, really important things. You can't really structure an educational or a physical development element into your riding program if your horse has physical or psychological restrictions, because you're just going to hit that wall all the time. You're not going to get past it. So I think what you're looking for in your warm-ups is my horse enthusiastic about this work? Where do they feel strong? Where do they feel weak? What do I need them to do? And in its most basic form, in the walk, can they deliver it easily? Because if they can't, then that's where you need to do the work.
Now, what about the rider itself? Because I know my wife, she's like, I need to start doing this. I need to start doing stretches and stuff. Now, we're talking about the horses, but, part 2 of that is the actual rider's warm up. Do you focus on that as well, or do you touch on that in your book?
No, that's not my problem.
That's the therapist's problem,
right?
No, I think the reason I used to be a dressage trainer where I used to spend about half the time, if not more, with the rider. I now see that as relatively pointless, because if your horse can't do something, then it doesn't matter how good a rider you are, you won't be able to do it either. So what I have found is that the better the horse feels and the more supple the horse is and the easier the horse is to ride, the better everybody rides. You could take, so Travis, you're very open about the fact that you're not an advanced horseman, but I could guarantee you that if I took you for 2 or 3 weeks with a very, very well-educated horse and showed you where the buttons were, in about a month, you'd be a better rider than a lot of people are after 10 years of struggling. Because you don't need strength, you don't need fitness. The horse does all the work. The rider is merely the conductor of the orchestra, and they don't play all the instruments. And this is a often misconception. The horse is there to do their job, but the rider is there to be the brain.
Well, the thing with riders is how many people out there have actually ridden a horse that can square up and go straight with his body? Most of them haven't.
Good question.
So can they even ride a horse that goes straight?
Well, I think that if you put them on a horse that goes straight, a lot of the twists and idiosyncrasies that riders find that they have, they don't have. I mean, when we straighten up a horse,
right,
I find that a crooked rider becomes straight, and therefore things get easier because they're not using tension in their body to counteract the fact that this 1,000-pound animal is careering sideways just slightly,
right,
and that makes you tight on one side. So that's not a rider error. The rider is just being influenced by a 10-to-1 ratio of weight and power. Right. So yeah, I don't worry too much about the rider because again, you sort the horse out, and riders ride well.
Yeah, but isn't the rider basically a reflection of what the horse is doing? So you said, yes, you could take me out there for 2-3 weeks and sit me on a horse and teach me where all the buttons are. But if the horse is not, like if I want it to go right and for whatever reason it doesn't know how to do right, then it's not going to go right. It's going to walk around the other way and go left to get where I want him to go. Like if I want him to go to that pasture over there, I'm going to pull on the right or whatever. And if he's not trained or whatever to do the right hand turn, he'll circle back around to the left, whatever's comfortable for him. He'll take the path, quote unquote, of least resistance.
But that's why I said that on a very well-educated horse. Because, of course, there's two components.
And a well-educated rider, too.
Well, now in Germany, what they do, and it's a very sensible system, is they put the beginner riders on the very well-educated horses. And they put the well-educated riders on the young horses. And that makes perfect sense because otherwise you get the blind leading the blind, and then they can get themselves into a bit of a vicious circle. And that's probably where you would end up on a poorly educated horse, because even if you did the right thing, the horse would still go and do what they want. And that happens a lot.
And what are some of the main things that we're looking at as we're warming up our horse, and now outside the rider part of it? What are some of the other main things that we're looking for when we're warming up the horse and what the horse is telling us?
Okay. Can they move freely? Do they understand what you're saying? Does it feel easy in its most basic form? Have you got all three gears, and can you move through all three gears without the horse losing balance? Do you have access to the ability to accelerate and decelerate where the horse has got the capacity to regulate their own left to right balance? It's the basics. But, as many Renaissance riding masters have said, it's in fact the basics are the hard thing. The flashy stuff at the top is relatively easy to do badly, but the basics, the fundamentals, they're where everyone should focus. Because once you get the basics, the more complicated stuff is just, it comes naturally.
One question I have, are you, when we're talking about warming up the horse, my wife just recently says this past weekend after she got back from her thing, that she had a body worker come over. Is body working kind of go in sync with the warm-up, and or can it add value to the warm-up? Because I don't understand the body. And listen to me now. You ready for this one, Mike?
Right. The
lady that comes over and works on, like you said, this 1,200-pound animal, and the lady that comes out there, she stands on what are the blocks that you ride? You get up on the mounting blocks,
right?
And the lady herself is about 110 pounds, and I'm like, how does this? I've gone to a chiropractor, and the chiropractor, it looks like an MMA fighter. I know this guy's going to work me over. You know what I mean?
Well, you need that.
I have had him. Dr. Doug, he's a great guy. And then you've got this body worker that comes over. Now, I understand that you do physically need to touch fur. You physically need to go over your horse to check, make sure that this is level and this is upright and this is not dipping in and this is not swerving and curving. But, I mean, like the chiropractor body worker, I don't know. I just have a hard time selling me on that.
Well, it takes a village to keep a horse.
I was going to say, did I get into a muddy situation there with you? Because, I mean, I think about when you talk about warming up, I think about doing that like the massaging. I can understand that. Mike talks all about doing the massage on a horse. And but I don't know. It doesn't sit. The two don't balance. The weight, the 100-pound working on a 1,200-pound.
Well, it all depends on the talent, ability, and knowledge of the practitioner.
Right.
I mean, there's an area that I'm looking into at the moment, which I'm fascinated by, which is fascia. So that's the connective tissue that is throughout the horse's body. And a good body worker will be working the fascia. Now, if fascia contracts or starts to bond, a good body worker will be able to help. The thing to remember is having a horse stay healthy and be competitive is a little bit like having a Formula One car. Do you know what Formula One is?
Yeah, open wheel.
Indy car.
Yep, open wheel.
Yeah. Okay, so you have mechanics that all have a specialized area. You have the pilot, you have the designer, you have the engineers, and it takes all of them to do their job. If one of them doesn't do their job properly, then there's going to be a weak point and you're going to lose performance and maybe even start to break down the machinery. Horse sport is exactly the same. You need good people all doing their job correctly, all talking to each other to find solutions so that horse can go out there, be rideable, be happy to be ridden, and perform physically to their best. I mean, I understand you have something called football. That's not what we call football.
Yeah, no.
Not what the rest of the world calls it.
Well, the principle is the same. I'm sure that your football players have massages, have physiotherapists, nutritionalists. It's the same thing. Why do they do that? They don't do that for fun. They do that because if you don't, it's a very short career and it's a very mediocre career. So it's no different with a horse.
All right, we're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, some of the exercises you can do that Simon will teach you how to do to improve the warming up your horse. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Sorry, I hope I didn't mean to throw you there if I did, Simon.
Not at all. That was great fun. I hope I'm not talking too much. I don't seem to be giving you.
No, you're good. You're good.
No.
So,
okay.
So you got the football players that get all the body work and massage and all that, and they have very short careers in relationship to a farrier.
Yeah, farriers.
Farriers get knocked around, slammed around, kicked across the barn, horse sitting on you. You never get a massage, never see a chiropractor, and you work for 40 years. What's the deal?
Yeah.
You can't walk, but you're still working.
I feel sorry for your back. I mean, when I have to take a set of shoes off a horse for one reason or another, I can't stand up for 2 days. I don't know how you do it.
You never stand up.
No.
That's not a problem.
He's got this,
Is that the trick?
He's got this permanent lean, walks around all the time.
Yeah, exercises. How about exercises that every rider needs to do with their horse as part of the warm-up? Every single one.
Everyone, Mike.
Everyone.
Got it.
Including you.
Including me. When I go feed, I have to do these exercises.
You need to do that with Cayenne every day.
Yeah.
She probably will be very agreeable.
They got a fan. They got some fans.
They do.
The people that bought the house, the property behind us,
right?
They built that house back there. They've cleared all the land up to the backside of our pasture,
right?
And they've got 2 kids out there, and they're an older couple, so they go out there and they're like, "Hey, can we feed your horses?" I'm like, yeah, just don't
feed them any fingers.
Yeah, no fingers. What do they like? I said carrots and apples. Just cut them up. Okay, so they go back there. So they sit in the back pasture all the time and wait for them to come out. They never come up here to the front pasture.
You won't see them again.
No, they're on the back. Okay. We'll come back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you follow him over on Facebook. And the reason you do that is because Mike puts a whole bunch of different educational articles up there. They're great reads. There are a lot of diagrams, a lot of stuff that we talk about here on the show. And also, Mike gets you caught up on anything that's going on. Your friend Jeff Coda over at the American Farriers Journal, he'll post a couple of his news articles over there. So if you're not part of the American Farriers Journal, you can also follow Mike Stine over on Facebook. Just search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Give him a like and subscribe over there. And my very own favorite person over to my far inside is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. Travis, how are you? And how are you, Simon? Good to have you back.
Great. Thank you both.
And joining us this week, an FFE trainer and equine biomechanics specialist, Simon Cocozza. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, you've got a book out here. Mike, show him the book.
This is the book.
This is the book. It's
I'm holding it the right way, right?
Core conditioning for horses. Yep. Inspired yoga inspired warm up techniques. Okay, thank you, Vanna.
You're welcome.
And So Simon, you were talking about
wave.
one of the things we're talking about warming up your horse and what you're looking for when warming up the horse. Now, you said that there's exercises that everybody who has a horse, even the lawn ornaments, should do, or is this strictly for people that are in eventing or training or in some kind of program, some kind of discipline?
I think everything from leisure riding to competing in the Olympics. There need to be some basics that are there with every single horse.
Okay. And what are those basics that everyone should be doing?
Right. Well, we have this peculiarity because we have a nasty habit of sitting in the middle of the horse's spinal column, for which it was not designed. So there are a few exercises that we have to do to compensate for the fact that we are putting this unnatural load in the center of the spinal column. Now, obviously, the spinal column of any vertebrate is foundational to its movement. And actually, if you misalign the spinal column because it's weak or there's too much weight there, then it can have adverse effects and actually cause pain. So there are some fundamental things that we should do with all horses if you're going to ride them. One of them, which is probably my favorite and the most impactful, is an exercise called turn on the forehand. Now, we learned this to open gates. So what it is you train the horse to stand still with the front end and just rotate around the inside fore while crossing the hind legs over. Now, what this does, it's a little bit like the horse version of a crunch that you might do in the gym or might not do in the gym, where you lie on your back and you bring one knee up and you fold and cross over and put your elbow to the... Do you want to demo it, Travis?
I'm trying. If we're watching this on the YouTube video, so it's like this. So it's like... You can't
Travis has got it down.
I can't pick my knees up high enough, so... Sure. Have another Twinkie, Trav. Oh, God. How'd I do?
And
whew.
The grunting was fantastic.
Right.
Oh, man, I'm out. Good. Simon, take over.
Okay, so all right, yeah, you have a breather.
Yeah.
So what that does is that contracts the abdominal wall and engages the core and pushes the spinal column back upwards into the rider's saddle, and thus trains the horse to be strong enough through the middle of the body to carry the rider. And it's a static exercise, so it doesn't need to be done at speed. So any horse and any rider can do it. But I find that even after doing it for 10 minutes, the horse immediately feels better to ride. So obviously feels more capable of carrying the rider in balance. So done really, really well. So practice for months, a little bit every day, say 5 to 10 minutes every day, absolutely transforms a horse's ability to carry a rider to do any job.
So I have two questions. One, when you said crossing the gate, I physically, in my mind, was like going, well, am I letting the gate, am I holding the horse wrong when I'm letting it in the pasture and I'm opening up the gate? Am I doing it wrong? And then you explain the knee bending stuff. I'm like, oh, he's talking about gate like the movement, not the gate that I physically have to open to let the horse in. I thought I was doing something wrong there for a second.
Well, you do that to physically open gates off a horseback.
Yeah, but I thought there's...
And then you can side pass the gate around.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I guess the horse doesn't get out. That's all I'm worried about. Second of all, you know, some of your riders out there, you got men out there. I mean, there's a reason why a jockey is, most of your jockeys are like 5'1", right? 5'1" and like 82 pounds or something like that, because they're not very much weight on a horse. Now, you get into other eventing, you get into long distance riding, you get into dressage training, and then you run the gamut of sizes and shapes of riders, both male and female. But I'm thinking, here's this horse. Again, 1,200, 1,300 pounds is solid, massive muscle. Is a 200-pound rider really quote unquote obnoxious to the back of a horse? As to, and I know you're going to say, well, then you have to add the saddle, and then you got this girth that kind of cinches up underneath it, and it's like wearing a backpack. But I would think that these animals have been around for so long that they have, just with breeding and stuff, have created a stronger back. Or are we going reverse on that because of the breeding and stuff, we're trying to get the gait and we're trying to get the horse into a certain, box that we want to put the horse in, that we're losing something on the spine?
Good question. But if you look at the construction of a horse, it's got large superficial exterior muscles in the shoulders and the hindquarters. But the bit that we're sitting on has to already carry this very, very, very heavy herbivorous gut. So it's a much longer gut than we have. So there's this tremendous weight on the thoracic section of the spinal column, I mean, basically the area that we put the saddle. Now, that being long, like a suspension bridge, the muscles have to be very, very strong in that part of the horse's body to take anything more than, again, the already heavy gut and organs. So it's a little bit like the straw that breaks the camel's back. We put a saddle on and we get on, and even if you're a relatively light rider, and even though the horse looks like a very muscular creature from the outside, we're sitting on its weakest point. So yes.
What other exercises can everyone do? Any riders? I mean, from, like you said, from the beginnings to the professionals. What other exercises outside of that gate closing and opening the gate thing that I messed up on? What other exercises should everyone be doing? At a beginner level. Let's start at the beginner level from now.
Okay, yeah. I think I may be responsible for that because I think I used the word gait as in ATE and the word gait as in AIT for different applications, so you're forgiven, Travis.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so
I don't.
So I'm not the only ding-dong here.
I wasn't forgiving you, just him.
You're very hard on him.
It's okay.
I'm trying to be friendly and pleasant. You understand.
He's fine.
A friend.
There's a reason why he
I'd
sits.
throw something at him if I were you.
Yeah,
Travis.
that's what I'm saying. There's a reason why he's only just punching distance away from me.
Right.
Yeah.
And I tried to earn it.
Another exercise that I think everyone should teach their horse. It's very, very simple, and you should also teach it from the ground first, where it's safe and you can look into the horse's eye and show them how to do it well, is rein back. Now, rein back is a very interesting one because generally when we teach a horse to go backwards, let's say we're trying to open a gate, as in farm gate, we would only teach the horse to do 3 or 5 reverse steps. Now, backing up actually comes into its own when we do more than 5 steps. What I noticed is that when we teach a horse to do, say, 10, 15, 20, 25, and even 30 steps, what happens is the horse starts to voluntarily, and this is very important, voluntarily, sit down behind by rotating the pelvis more underneath the body by closing the lumbosacral junction where the pelvis meets the lumbar part of the back, and lift up through the back. So they do this all on their own. Now, what's advantageous about the rein back is because it's very easy for the horse to learn and very easy to teach. But we can give the horse the experience of coming backwards. And again, after 10, 15, 20 steps, the horse starts to naturally sit down behind and take their weight on those powerful hind quarters and hocks, and then move forwards in that natural balance because they have felt how much better it feels to shift their weight towards the back. Now, what is really, really important when we train horses is to teach them to take the weight off the front end and put the weight on the rear. The rear is where all the muscles are, the big carrying muscles. But without teaching the horse to do that, they tend to allow their weight to thunder onto the front legs. This is not good for the front limbs. It also makes the horse very difficult to ride because a horse that's heavy on the front would be difficult to turn, just like having a flat tire on a bicycle.
Right. Yes.
So, yeah, and also it makes Mike's job much, much harder because the horse is crushing the feet constantly.
Right.
So
go ahead, Mike.
I like to use a...
Hold on,
Sorry,
Mike wants to say something.
I was taught something many years ago when I was young and thought I knew something. Now I know nothing. But I spent a little time with an old reining trainer, Dale Wilkinson. He had moved down to Georgia to retire. And his thing with any horses, there was no such thing as a stop. Stop was not a gait. A gait was a rein back, but not completed. But you always wanted a horse to learn, even in a halter, to rein back in the stop. That way the horse loads onto the back end, puts the back, and the horse is ready for the next maneuver. And we tend not to stop that. We just stop them. Even with babies, it's like that was automatic. Rein back, rein back, rein back. When you go to the stall, open the door, rein back. When you didn't do it, he hit you in the back with a Coke can that he hadn't opened yet, and he made you drink it because the Coke was shaking up. So anyway, that was and people, well, that's reining horses. Well, that's mechanics of any horse.
It is, and the Western riders and trainers, they've had a lot of this stuff worked out a long time ago, because agility is an integral part of the job that they have to do. And obviously, when you have to be careful what you repeat. For example, not stopping the horse and going straight backwards wouldn't work for a dressage rider, because we have to show a certain number of seconds of immobility. And obviously, if we go from a forward gait to a backward gait, then we're teaching the horse not to give us that immobility. But nevertheless,
I think
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
I think what he wanted to see is the horse stop and rock back into that position, but without moving feet.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the horses have to be taught that. Human beings have to be taught to dance. Horses have to be taught how to balance themselves. But what I like to do, and that's why rein back is such a good exercise, is I don't like to have to micromanage and explain how to carry yourself to a horse. I like to use an exercise that is difficult to do badly, so that gradually, as the horse learns to do the exercise better, they almost teach themselves how to carry themselves better.
Right.
And once they've experienced it and they have the technique, because they're very good at performing that particular exercise, they give it to you all the time in absolutely every step. Now, that is how we should be training horses. Right. Because I think often what we do is we try and train a horse by saying, by micromanaging them step by step. And of course, I can't imagine anything more frustrating than being a horse with a human being on top saying, stop, go, left, right, rebalance yourself. It's like, oh my God, get off. So by educating them to be a ballet dancer in their own right, capable of rebalancing themselves or even just maintaining balance, is the way to go. And then you just have to sit on board and suggest things. And the horse will say, sure, I can do that. I can do that really easily.
Right.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break. One more little segment, and we'll let you get back to enjoying your ponies. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Boop. 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 Simon, you okay?
Great. Listen, I want to apologize. I think there's a little bit of delay. So, Mike, when you start talking, I only realize that when I'm 3 seconds in.
That's okay. No, yeah. There's a small delay. Don't worry. You're fine.
The distance between us.
Yeah. It's got to go to space, and it's got to come back down.
Right.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with my kind.
You're what kind?
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. I say a lot of words, Mike. I say a lot of words. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you follow him over on Facebook. If you have a YouTube channel, if you're not on YouTube, now you got me all screwed up. Hold on, I got to start this all over. You got me all sideways now.
At least I give you something to blame it on.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll leave it on the video, but I'm okay. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, make sure you follow him over on YouTube. For every podcast we do, we have a matching video over on YouTube. You can see the full-length podcast, and it's a whole entirety. Go to Equine Dynamics over on YouTube. Make sure you give him a subscribe over there and see all the different guests and all the different media stuff that we have going on here. We have a whole bunch of visuals, and Mike is over there holding up our guest's book that he wrote. It's called Core Conditioning for Horses, Yoga-Inspired Warm-Up Techniques. Thank you very much, Mike. My very own Vanna White over there is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Simon? And thank you for being back with us. Always
Very well,
a treat.
Thank you, Mike.
And joining us this week on the program is Simon Cocozza, FFE trainer, equine biomechanics specialist as well. And you might have heard him back on season 11, episode 2. You can listen to his full show, his first show when he was on with us. Check that out over there as well. Now, Simon, Mike.
Yes.
What did we learn today?
What did we learn today?
With Simon, he was talking about warming up your horses. So, Simon, what are some of the things that we need to do when you say warming up the horses? What are we talking about?
When you get on your horse and you start walking around, run through a checklist. What does my horse find easy and what does my horse find difficult? In its most basic form, in walk. And that will tell you what you need to know, because whatever he finds difficult is going to be in your way when you try and ride the horse under any impulsion or any speed.
Now, in your book, do you have a physical checklist as far as, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is what you should be for an advanced rider or, your basic rider?
That's a great question. Yes, actually, there's a chapter in the book where you can do a checklist of what your horse finds easy and finds difficult. And then it will tell you which exercises to do, to what extent, to improve those parts of the body.
And also, when we're doing the warm-up, what is the horse telling us after and during our warm-up, Mike?
What is the horse telling us?
I don't know. What is, I don't know. What did I say?
What did you say?
You got me all fall apart now. I'm falling apart. So let me try
What
that.
is the horse telling you after the warm-up?
And what is the horse telling you after a warm-up, Simon?
They are telling you, I need a little bit more work, a little bit more help in this part of my body. And if you do, your horse will immediately respond by offering you more of whatever you're asking for.
Mike?
Yes. And, the looser the horse is, the less damage they do, that I have to try to figure out how to work around. Because that's a lot of what I'm doing is trying to figure workarounds.
And also exercises that every rider can do to improve the horse's warm-up. And you, Simon, you were talking about the cross gait, the cross gait, and also the back reining. Or did I say that?
The rein back.
Rein back and the
And the turn on the forehand and crossing. I don't know.
So Simon, continue with that.
Yeah, thanks for saving that one, Mike. The old exercise that we're always taught about how to open a gait, ATE. So in other words, keeping your horse's front end still and being able to ask your horse to rotate the back end around it, that taken to a sort of gymnastic level, to a professional level, will have a huge impact over the way your horse rides and jumps and does everything. And the second one was rein back. Again, very, very simple. Rein back isn't a walk, it's actually a trot. So what we can do is we can ask the horse to improve the trot by going backwards, by improving the way they articulate as diagonal pairs.
Mike?
Yes, and the stronger the back is, the less horse sag in the middle, the less damage they're going to do to their palmar alignments, and the easier it is going to be to keep them going from my end.
Well, Simon, we could do a whole series of shows with everything that's in your book and everything that you've got telling us here, all the information. It's so much information. I wish we had enough time for all of it. But if some of our listeners have questions for you, how can they find you? How can they get a hold of you? And how can they get a hold of your book here?
Well, the book, called Conditioning for Horses, is available through the publisher's website, which is Horse and Rider Books, or it's available on Amazon. You can contact me directly, and I put a lot of information on my Facebook page, which is Core Conditioning for Horses. You can also contact me through Core Conditioning for Horses. And the other aspect of what I'm delivering at the moment, which I find is probably the most useful element of my work, is structured warm-ups that you listen to while you ride. And they're available on my website, which is www.coreconditioningforhorses.com.
So if you don't have a trainer, or you're just out there, like my wife likes to go out and just, play with the horse. I say play with the horse. She gets on the horse and warms up the horse and just kind of feels what the horse after a week of training. And if you don't have a trainer there with you, you can download this, have it in your headphones, and then physically it's like you're having a trainer right there in your ear, which I think is very amazing. I said that last time, and I still believe in that as well today.
Oh, they're very popular because there are 4 different levels. So it doesn't really matter where your horse is. And within that sort of 20 or 30-minute warm-up, you learn, and I talk you through how to teach your horse some of these crucial exercises that they need to master. And as the horse gets better, you move on to the next one, and they become slightly more difficult, and until you get your horse to absolutely peak core condition. And you can do that without having a trainer present. You can do it at home, just using these audio warm-ups.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing you in the States and seeing more of your clinics, and hopefully us working with some horses together.
I would really like that. I want to see you work, and moreover, I look forward to shaking your hand again.
Yes.
Thank you very much for all your help.
Well, we'd like to thank Simon Cocozza, an FFE trainer and equine biomechanics specialist, for joining us this week on Equine Dynamics.
Thank you both for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here again. I look forward to doing this again.
Yes.
And on behalf of Mike Stine over there,
thank you, Simon. Thank you, Travis. Enjoy your ponies and have a good day.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week. And we're clear. All right, there we go.
And we're clear.
Mike, you made me fall apart at the end there.
You made me fall apart at the end there. You know I live in a state of confusion.
Jesus. Simon, great job, man. We could go on and on and on.
Simon didn't not have much to work with today. He had us.
No.